Guten Morning. My name is Felipe Bernardes, and today I'm here to present to you about an animated poem I made using CSS Drawings and Animations. So, first of all, a little of myself. I'm from Brazil, precisely from Sorocaba City. There I'm a co-organizer of local meetups. I've been working as a remote freelancer for the past 2 years, and I'm not going back. And in the past year, I've been working especially with Baby Center client. They are the biggest website about parenthood, pregnancy, and childhood worldwide. Also, I'm very, very bad at playing drums. Just wanted to say that. So, what will happen today? I made this animated poem 2 years ago. I know the code's a little bit dated, but it's still good. Uh, but today I want to give you some context about why did I do it and tell you about my experience and not just show you the code. But mostly we'll be looking into codes today and understanding how to draw things with CSS and how to do cool animations with just a few lines of code. And if you are not a front-end developer or not so familiar with CSS, that's okay, that's not a problem. The code is as didactic as possible, and afterwards we will have QA, and we can do pair programming if you want after my talk. So don't worry if you don't get all the code right away. And finally, I will share how this experience of spending 10 hours creating an animated poem changed my career for the better. So I made this animated poem for my significant other. Her name is Amanda Vilela, and she's there. Thanks. And this is what I made. For those who don't know, CodePen is a code snippet website, an experiments website for front-end code, where as you type HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, the code shows up and gets updated in real time. And every day I look to this website to get new references, and one day I decided, why not do one myself? And what happens in this animated poem is right after we hit play, a lot of animations shows up. But yeah, let's get the context first, okay? Why did I do this in first place, right? You might be asking, why did you spend 10 hours creating something like that? You don't earn any money from it. So I ask you back, why not do it? Why not spend 10 hours doing something fun, right? Bullshit, just kidding. I know everyone have jobs and we need to study too. And with our free time, we don't want to do more code. We want to do something else, right? Like playing Nintendo Switch, great system, okay. But I had this surgery 2 years ago, and I was like on the verge of my mental physical health. And after I had this surgery, I needed to stay as a recovery patient for 2 entire weeks. And oh my God, I got bored. That's Amanda, by the way. Thanks for helping me. So I got very bored in these 2 weeks. And what happened is I started missing my work. And I was thinking, okay, I made this surgery and now I'm crazy. Maybe it must be the meds, right? But I was actually missing to code. And so I started and I decided, what should I do? I will write a poem and animate it with CSS. So that's the result. And it was like one of the funniest moments and experiences I had while programming from my entire career. Like, we have fun days at work, but I had a lot of fun doing that. Especially because I didn't need to work while I was doing that, but you get the point. And I wanted to share with you how was this experience. So how exactly I did it? Okay, how can you replicate it in your own homes? So there's 4 steps, and the first one is having a surgery. There's a delay in okay, so after that, you need to get really bored. Afterwards, something happens, and eventually you will have an animated poem, okay? Just kidding. So it's actually easier. There's only 2 steps for that. We just need to understand how those CSS drawings works first, and also afterwards how CSS animations works. And it's not that complicated, and I will show you. First of all, let's talk about drawings and CSS drawing basics. But instead of CSS, let's just talk about drawing basics first, okay? So there's this concept that from basic shapes, we can draw and design everything, anything in UI development, or even in the paper. So let's picture these 3 basic forms: a square, a triangle, and a circle. Would anyone say that from these basic forms, we can create a heart shape? Does anyone know how? Okay, 1, 2, 3 people. Nice. Okay, so how do we do it exactly? We just combine squares with circles, duplicate it, and then position them in a way they look like a heart shape, okay? And just paint it afterwards. And that's what we'll be doing looking into the code. We'll see every part of the drawings, identify the basic shapes, and afterwards see how to do that with CSS, okay? Now, about the code, I already told you, it's okay if you don't get everything right away. Just try to follow up. You'll see it's not that complicated, and by the end, we will have QA, and also I will be at the Toptal booth to take any clarifications if you want. So, look into the initial drawing of the animated poem. We can identify some shapes there, right? There's the heart balloon shape. There's me right here. There's Amanda here. There's stars. The sky is blue, but with a gradient. And also we can see the ground. It's like slightly round. And I actually made a list of these elements here to make it easier, okay? Now, let's jump on each one of them and see how is the front-end code implementation for those. Okay, so I created this demo folder here and separated each part of the code in drawings and animations. Let's take a look at the drawings first. And let's start by the heart balloon. So we are talking about this shape. And earlier, we talked about the square combined with a circle, right? But in CSS, instead, we can make a rectangle and make its borders from the top round, okay? So instead, we just need 2 of those and position them. Let's start look into the HTML markup. So okay. So it's pretty straightforward. There's just an empty div with the heart balloon class. Now let's see the CSS for it. So the heart balloon is the container we are using after and before pseudo elements to create our rectangle with round corners shape. And for that, what we do is positioning the right heart balloon first at the screen from 20% of the top of the screen and 55% of the left. And the after and before pseudo elements are, first of all, positioned relatively to the heart balloon container. They have a slightly higher than the width to make it a rectangle. And the top and right borders are round, okay? Here I'm setting the color. And lastly, what we do is to rotate differently the after element to minus 60 degrees and the right element to 60 degrees. In a way, they look like this. And that's the result. Okay, follow me? All right, let's go to me and Amanda and see how the draw worked on these two. So let's take a look. Let's take some time to look this image first and identify the basic shapes, okay? So if you look to my head and to Amanda, they are squares. Our eyes are rectangles. We can see a triangle here in the turtleneck for Amanda's dress and my shirt. There's also our legs are rectangles, our bodies are rectangles, and so on. Okay. We can say that Amanda's hair is also a rectangle, but with round corners, and my hair too. Now let's take a look to the HTML for this code. So me and Amanda are pretty much the same with just a single difference. Let's look into me first. So there's an enclosing div with the me class here. We have an enclosing div with the head class. Inside it, there's an empty div with the hair class here. And we have divs for the left and right arm, left and right leg, and for the body. The difference with Amanda Markup is that she has a dress div inside the body div, okay? Now let's see the CSS. Okay, so there's some specifics for each of the drawings, but there's common code first for me and Amanda. And the most important part of the code is these lines from line 4 to 7. What I'm doing here is determining that the kind of display for this me and Amanda divs are made with grid display. And the way CSS grid works is very cool. We have columns determined in these texts here, these strings, and also rows. So there's 3 rows. In the first one, there's nothing in the first column. In the second column, there's the head, and the third column, nothing. For the second row, there's the left arm, the body, and the right arm. And for the third row, there's the left leg, nothing, and the right leg. Okay? That's common code. So if you notice that these grid areas are strings, right? So how does it know that a head element is a head string here? So there's a grid area value in each one of these body parts, tying up the variable we used here. So this head is determined right here, okay? So now let's look, that's the general positioning of the body parts. Now let's look about each one of the elements and see that they are simply being set like as simple forms. So the height and width for the head are a square, and also there's the color here. We are using after and before elements for positioning the eyes. And again, they are rectangles with a slightly bigger height than the width. And they are being positioned referring to the head. So from the top, 5 pixels. And for the left eye, it's positioned from the left side of the head, and from the right eye, the same from the right side of the head. Now the body, it's pretty much the same. There is only the tie-up for the grid area here, the color of it, and the width, the height and the width of the body size to make it a rectangle. And for the arms, the same. The only thing that changes from the body to the arms are the proportions. So here we want to have a wider rectangle for the arms, different than the body. The right arm is pretty much the same. What changes, the difference in the legs is that they are slightly positioned, the left leg more to the left side of the screen, and the right leg more to the right side. So there's this small difference in positioning here. They are not tied up. Okay. So now about the specifics. The difference is mostly the color of the clothes and also the hair. So let's look at my hair. It's absolutely positioned, referring to the head. There's my hair color here. And the border radius, the corners are different for each side of the hair. So here is the more rounded than here, and so on. Okay. So for the body, there's the background color with the my shirt color. And if we look into the image, there's a triangle here, right? This is the trickiest part. There is not a very simple way to make a triangle with CSS, but rather a hack instead. So how do we do it? We determine the borders to the left and to the right elements to have the same size. This way it will be like this first. And they are transparent. And the top side of it has the color we want in the triangle, which is the color of the skin. So the hack does something like this. Actually, this. So, and we got the triangle here. Okay, now for the left and right arms, we are rotating them to be like this, slightly open. And that's the line who does it. And oh, there is also the shirt sleeve. If you notice here, right in the upper side of my arms, there is a square with the same color of the shirt. And that's how we do it. In the arm, we have a before pseudo element. We are coloring it and making it a square. And that's all, okay? For the right arm is pretty much the same. The rotation is negative now because it's to the other side. For the left and right legs, we are only setting the color of my pants here. And for Amanda, the same for her hair is different. The border radius are just in the top sides, so top left and top right here. Okay. The dress have negative border radius in the bottom part. So this way the borders form like a triangle, okay? And the turtleneck of Amanda's dress, it's bigger than mine. So that's the only reason we separate the turtleneck too. Okay. And the dress has like here's the the borders of the hair dress. So okay, the arms have different rotations because she's holding this cord of the balloon, and there is also the cord of balloon being determined with the after element here. Okay, this was the most difficult part. All of the other elements are pretty much basic shapes. Let's look at the mini hearts. So in the original image, the mini hearts don't show up. That's because we only show it after the animation starts, but that's the shape of it. Let's look into the HTML for it. So there's a list called mini hearts, and each one of the list items has a class mini heart. Now let's see the CSS for it. So just quickly looking back, the basic shapes here, we can say we have 3 squares for each mini heart, okay? And they are positioned, one in the center and one overflowing to the corner, the other 2. Okay, so the list, the mini hearts list, the only thing we do here is say there's no bullet list here, and we are positioning it in the screen. And for each mini heart, there's a background color. It's a basic square. It has a rotation, so it goes like this. And lastly, we are determining the other 2 squares to be the after and before pseudo elements, which are squares with the same width and height, and the background color is the same. The trick here is, if we look into the image, the mini hearts are in different positions of the screen, right? How do we do that? So I'm selecting here each one of the mini hearts. Now here the first one, the second one, the third, and the fourth. And the difference between them, they have different values for the top and left values. So here the first one is positioned minus 20 pixels to the top and 20 pixels from the left, showing up like this. The second one, minus 60 pixels from the top and 30 pixels from the left. The third one, minus 80 and 10 pixels from the left, and so on. So these numbers, by coding in CodePen, as I could see the instant refresh in the screen, I could position it the way I thought it looked better, okay? Let's see now the stars. Can anyone tell me what are these basic shapes for the stars? They are squares, right? But the trick is, I have 500 stars in the presentation. So if we scroll the HTML, we have a list and 500 items. And that's the only reason that I used Pug preprocessor for creating HTML. This way, we can write like a variable and iterate over it a number of times to create 500 stars in 5 lines of code. Now, let's see the CSS for it. As you can imagine, the background color is white for the stars, and they have the same width and height, making it a square. And if you look again to the image, they are positioned in different places across the screen. The way I do it is using a list, an iteration list in SAS, and we are going from the first star to the last one and selecting them using nth of type. And we are determining that left and top positions are random values between these numbers. Okay, so let's see the last part, the ground. Okay, it's curvy, it's in the bottom of the screen, and the way it looks like is this. We don't have actually a ground element in the HTML, but we have the body element with the scenario class. And look into the CSS. The scenario has the background color for the sky with gradient for the night sky color. And the ground elements is actually created with the after pseudo element. It has a linear color, a gradient color, and as I said, it's positioned sticky to the bottom of the screen, and a little bit overflowing to the left and to the right, and it has like the double of the screen width. So this in a way that it looks like just slightly curvy when we use our border radius here for the top sides. Okay, we can also pay attention that the height of it is 20% of the screen size, and that will be important in our animations part. Now, let's look into the animations. So I have a list 2 of the animations. We'll be looking to each one of them separately, and after that, we will be looking the entire animated poem running. So the list is, Mia and Amanda will start flying, we will be blinking, the mini hearts we saw before will pop up in the screen, the stars will start appearing one by one in different times, the sky will rotate, the ground will move out of view as we were high in the sky, and also the poem stanzas will show up. Okay, let's take a look at the code. Same thing, I have separate files here. The difference is we will be using the same HTML element, so we'll be looking just to CSS code now. Now, the GIF of me and Amanda flying is this one. Let's see how that was made. Okay, so basically for each animation in CSS, we need keyframes. And the keyframes determine how the animation starts and how it ends, okay? Besides the keyframes, we also need to tie it up to the element with animation name. If you see here, we are determining that the keyframes for us flying is as animation, the same name as set here. The animation has a delay, so after we hit play, it waits 4 seconds before starting. It has 5 seconds duration, and the fill mode is very important. It determines how the elements in the screen will stay after the animation ends. So by default, the elements gets back to its original place, and we don't want that. So as we want me and Amanda staying in the sky, flying, we set the animation fill mode as forwards. And what are the keyframes? Let's take a look at it. So the initial values are bottom 0 pixels and right 0 pixels. That means in the start, we are tied to the bottom to the ground, and we are not rotating also. And in the end, we are 20% from the bottom of the screen, and also minus 10% from the right of the original position. And also, we rotate a little bit to the right. Let's take a look again. Okay. Got it? Let's see the next ones. So now the animation of me and Amanda blinking. If you take a look and pay attention at our eyes, we are blinking right after the start of the animation. Okay, how do we do that? The same thing. But now, if you notice the animation, we blink and then open your eyes back. So instead of having from and to values in the keyframes, we are determining a percentage of the moments of the animation. So in the initial moment, our eyes are pretty much the same size as set originally. In the middle of animation, the width is the same, but the height of the eye is a third lower. So instead of 6 pixels, 2 pixels, like as if we're shrinking and blinking our eyes. And lastly, it gets back to the original state. Let's take a look at the CSS, how it looks like. We are just tying up the animation name with eyes animation, as set down here. We are determining the duration to be 4 seconds. There is no delay, so it happens straight away. And finally, we stay with open eyes in the end. Okay, now the mini hearts popping up. They are going upwards to the left, and first they are hidden, and then it shows up. Let's see the code for that. First of all, let's start with the keyframes again. The opacity is 0 because the mini hearts are hidden at first. The original positions for left and top are here. And by the middle of the animation, the left is set to minus 57 and top minus 100 pixels, okay? And also, they are fully visible. And by the end, as the hearts, mini hearts are hidden again and off the screen, they are even more to the left, even more to the top, and also not visible anymore. So in the start, not appearing, to appearing fully, and then getting hidden again. Okay. Now about the stars. The trick here of the stars is they appear in different order. How do we do that? So remember, we put every one of the stars in different places of the screen with the SAS iteration. We do the same here. So we are just animating the opacity to not showing up to show up. And here we got an animation name for star animation in the star element. But we are putting different animation duration on each one of the stars. And it's a random value. So every time we refresh the screen, the stars will be in different places and also will show up in different order. Okay, almost there. Now let's see the sky. How does it rotates? Okay. Let's start with the keyframes. There is actually a transform rotation property in CSS, and originally it is not rotating, it's 0 degrees, but in the end it's minus 90 degrees. And here, remember, we are doing the same, filling the animation mode to stay after it finishes as it finished. We are determining the duration of the sky rotation is 2 minutes because of the music. There's a music. And also, it takes 6 seconds before starting rotating. Okay. Now, as the animation starts, the ground moves out of view. And the text show up also. So the way we do it is just animating the height of the element. So from 20% of the screen size, we are shrinking it to 0 height. And here we are setting the animation name, setting that it shouldn't get back to the original state with fill mode forwards, and also determining the duration of the animation to be 12 seconds. Finally, the poem stanzas appear slowly one by one, so I wanted Amanda to read it slowly and not everything, like to create a suspense. And the way we do it, it's pretty much the same as the stars. Let's see. So the keyframes are just animating the opacity to be from 0 to entirely visible. And the difference here is, besides setting the animation name, duration, and fill mode, we are determining a different delay for each one of the stanzas. So the first one will show up after 10 seconds, the second about after 20 seconds, and so on. Okay, let's see how does everything works together. So again, this is CodePen. I will click play and let you see it. Let's watch. Okay, the star is rotating. We can see a few stars appearing delayed. We keep in our place in the sky, and the stanzas are showing up. Okay, and also there's this guy, Frank Sinatra, he's playing this song. I don't know how that happened. Okay, we don't have much time. Running out of time. Okay, you can see it live. I will share the link after, okay? But could you follow like each one of the elements and identify the basic shapes, and also pay attention to the animations and figure out how they were made? That's not much code, right? Okay, so let me share my learnings from it. Why we are here today, if we stop to think for a while? We want to make our careers better, right? We are learning new things, new technologies, and learning from other people. And often we also improve our careers by learning new frameworks, tools, and languages. But the thing is, I didn't expect to, but I noticed it after working on this one, creativity is a great tool for developers. As important as figuring out new frameworks and languages. And we need to exercise this. So here's the thing. If I wanted to ask you to take just one thing from this presentation, is we need to exercise our creativity. And we need to do it in a healthy way to not get overwhelmed in the work. So this is very important, and by doing so, I look at with other ways to code and to my work too, and tried different approaches for my problems after that. So I propose you to fork this code and start exercising by this, from copying this presentation. Like you can change the clothes color to look like you and a friend or your significant other. You can pretend the poem was written by you. I'm okay with that. Okay, and please let me know if you do that. Share with me, I want to see it. Also, if you want to start doing this today, I will be at the Toptal booth. You can bring your laptop, we can do that together. Okay, so that's my learning. That's where you can start. And just a final heads up. So after going back from surgery, I went full-time freelancing through Toptal. I'm not looking back. It's a great freelancing network. And if you want to know more about open positions and jobs, there's jobs in many different areas. Come talk to us in the Toptal booth. Also, there's a bonus. You can earn up to $1,000 by registering with this link. And we'll be on the sponsors area for the rest of the conference, okay? Okay, the links of the presentation are here. Okay. And the slides too, the code and the slides. And Felipe, thank you so much for hearing me today.